Good. Oh, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Microphone check. There we go. Now I know it's actually working. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the afternoon session. Hopefully everyone had a fantastic morning of trading so far, and they were able to grab some opportunities this morning. Man alive, this thing just got absolutely obliterated. Welcome to the daily afternoon market recap and offering overview. Over the next 30 to 60 minutes or so, we're going to be covering what took place today and the trade setups that presented themselves per the rules outlined in the Day Trading Academy and the VIP trade plans. I'm going to talk about every setup that presented itself today, but remember, not all patterns and setups are created equal. The ones that I cover here don't use any common sense at all. Going long in a massive downtrend, shorting at the bottom of a range, all of those, it totally fits the bill. You kind of get the picture. That's to ensure total fairness, and the pattern, setup review, there's no cherry picking, all that kind of stuff. Don't forget, before we kick this off, smash the like button. Let the YouTube algorithms know what's up, and heck, while you're at it, subscribe so you don't miss any of the next videos or contents coming up. We go live every day at 1300 Eastern to cover everything that happened today and all that fun stuff. So, if you want to hang out with me and the rest of the VIPs for the entire U.S. morning session, you can register for a one-week trial to our private VIP live trade room to see how we trade the markets in real time while they're moving. Plus, when you register for a trial, you get our 24-page guide on risk-reward, along with access to schedule a 30-minute phone call with me. That way you can discuss any questions or anything else that you may have about joining as a member or anything else that you want to talk about. And the best part is, it's totally free. There's no credit cards or anything else required. So make sure to get on the calendar before we start going off into the holidays. If you have any questions about what we offer or what we have available for you or anything in between, if there's a trade that you want me to review for you, that's fine too. We do a Q&A time after the charts, so we'll definitely get those all covered. So with that all the way, let's take a look at what happened today on our old buddy, the Nasdaq, and see what else is going on from that perspective. Hey, Viper, how's it going? I'm not sure who Neil is, but I'm good to see you. It's good to see you in here. We've got... the overall momentum for today has been pretty obvious. We've got look at this thing, right? This thing got absolutely obliterated to the downside, currently down 1.88% and focusing its way down, right? Oh, it just popped up for me. I'm sorry. I see what you're talking about now. Why did that take so long? Oh, you're talking about Glenn. Sorry, yeah. Good morning. It just popped up now for me. Fantastic. Well, I get what you're talking about. Never mind. That's just me catching up. Don't worry. My brain processes a little differently. We've got the overall back and forth momentum down, and we've got this beautiful lightning bolt. And this lightning bolt to the downside, we've got, obviously, a nice continuation phase down. Oh, no, you're good. That's just my brain post-processing not catching up. We're coming back down to the bottom of 4 of the previous upward cycle. And when we have that kind of movement, that kind of pullback, we want to pay attention to it, right? We know from an Elliott wave cycle, when you have 5 waves up, the market usually likes coming down and correcting back to the 4th wave low. And that's where it finds support and bounces back higher. But as it stands, well, they did initially try to find some support, failed through, and then went screaming all the way back up. So we can kind of ask ourselves, well, did they at least get some jobs done, right? If they were buying directly on the bottom of wave 4, were they doing anything of interest? And if we look at the overall targets, nothing really sits. And one of the things that we talk about a lot of with risk reward is making sure that we actually see responsiveness. This just doesn't have it. So obviously that is not the right location where they have built in. So let's go across and see where these longs may have gotten in from. Get that over to a minute. There we go. And now we see a clearer picture, right? This makes a lot more sense. The POC is back here, and using some common sense, these are probably buyers who were trying to buy the trend, and it failed. So when it got failed and rolled over on them, realistically, these bulls, some will probably stop out underneath a low, take their stops, etc. Maybe even buy aggressively down here to position out. But one thing's for sure, we see this constantly. The market will come back and allow them out of break even in one way, shape, or form, and that's exactly what took place here. Now, what's interesting is something we talk about a lot. Don't forget, algos only know 1s and 0s. So if we go across, do we have any reasonable suspicion that the bulls have fulfilled their targets? Guess what? none of them actually physically tested off the POC. If they went long and their average was 350, the scalp target was here and they missed it. They missed it, they missed it, they missed it. So this move to the downside then, what could this be? Realistically, it's probably longs getting squeezed. Right? They're in the juicer right now and they're getting mixed. If we go back a little bit further on the entire move to the upside to see where they may be wanting to pull back to, going back up to bottom to the top, we've got a POC balance point which landed right here. From the sell side perspective, the sellers are still holding off that area and pressing down, so we can ask ourselves again. Although we know the bulls have not achieved any objectives, did the bears? Right? Are the bears showing signs of support resistance and an assumable target area that would suggest that they're taking profit? Yeah, I think so. Check mark. Right? The only thing that hasn't been filled is the 2-to-1. And right now, given all the failures on the highs and the lower highs and everything else going on, that seems like it's going to be the next stop. If we go backward across, that's also the large point of volume before the POC on that staggered 3-press move build. So that's probably one of the most obvious places on the planet for the market to go to. And if we draw falling support, that adds even more to it. So, I mean, everything is still pointing to the downside and trying to get this thing to collapse lower. So going into today and looking at the trade setups that we had, we initially started out of the gates with a long. Now remember, I didn't use any filtering on these patterns, but the long, maybe not the best opportunity in the world. It did end up being a loss, right? So it's a -1R from a patterns perspective. If we're looking at it from a trade perspective, you'll notice I didn't even take the original entry. That's because it went too fast. I tried, but it had hit the entry and left the station so quickly that I did not get a fill before it finally came back. And when it came back into the area, tried buying into the dip, it didn't work, exited along the way, bought a little bit more, exited a little bit more, and had to eat some of the losses along the way until we finally bottomed out at the low on previous structural support from where the earlier shorts were getting in, and that allowed them to get back out for the move back up. And that was eventually where the market rolled all the way back higher. Really nasty to get into, but in the end, it finally cycled its way up. A little differentiation between how that was approached. As we continue, we see another bounce 4. In this case, it's a bounce 4 to the upside after the T2. This is also a +2R with a continuation higher. Absolutely incredible entry point. You'll notice there were a couple entry points along the way, but that zone was a big spot of interest for continuation up. Very, very straightforward stuff. Worked out nice and easy. Or at least simplistically. I hate the word easy when it comes to trading. As we continue along the way, we didn't really have anything else until we had a pivot off of the top, which went screaming off to the downside. Now, after that momentum lower, I must have accidentally deleted it, we did have this cycle lower that was working off of the bounce 3, and after it came time to hold up for that bounce 1 to the downside, it was a total failure. They had again, another failure that was a -1R. It just didn't work out. Right, the way that it needed to. Now, if we're looking at the actual trade management perspective, we were talking about the monstrous amount of support down here and how it doesn't make sense to go for the larger target, so we were scaling out a little bit ahead of it. Again, the brain on our shoulders can be helpful sometimes. As the market is transitioning back and forth, had a little bit of a herk-jerk move to the upside that tried to break away from this bearishness, but after that rip to the upside, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, all the way down. Now, along the way, there was an opportunity for a potential short to the downside. That was a bounce 3. That was a -1R. It did not work at all. You'll notice I did not have any trades around there. We were talking about how this is a horrendous spot for a short. It's selling directly into support. It may work, but chances are the probability is not good enough to even put it on the table. And, well, in hindsight, that was definitely the right call. It didn't work at all. It would have stopped everybody out and then rolled down to the low. Per the pattern, again, it's a -1R, just in all fairness, but I didn't even take that one. The extra continuation of the downside was a beautiful bounce 3 for a 2R move back down, which also offered up 3 other opportunities for break-even reloads before seeing it cycle back down. Insane. The only way in on that one was with a single because it moved too fast. That was about it. So it was just straight in, straight out, not really anything else to worry about there. As the market continued along its merry way, we had this nice rotation to the upside that the bulls were trying to get a continuation phase on. And during this continuation phase, this is also right at, if you look at the time at the bottom, 10:30, things are slowing down, having a hard time. This was a just mess of an area. You'll notice there's a ton of trades around here because it was a scalper's playground. We had the initial bounce, only was able to get one, bounced up to the target. Reloaded back down, into the target. Reloaded back down, into the target. Got a horrible fill, added a little bit more, compensated for the fill for some exits. Then it started breaking down. Now, from this breakdown, a lot of traders can just take the exit because there's already tons of scalps inside there. But if it does break down through the lows, then we've got another area of interest that I tried buying into. But the sellers closed underneath the stop point with a lot of aggression. So I bought really quickly into it, and then really fast after that, reduced size a bit to draw my average down. Eat the loss up front to make it a bit more manageable. Same thing here, right? Eating the loss up front to make it more manageable. That drives my average down. We had the continuation pulse to the upside, nice first area, higher low, second objective off, and it rolled back down. Again, didn't make sense to look for the higher objective. We had a lot of disappointed bulls. But they did eventually have that roll and got things going. Per the rules, though, this is a -1R losing trade. And then as we go beyond that, we have another bounce 3 to the downside, which is a -1R. You'll notice I did not have any trades here. It moved too fast. We had this a lot of times today where it just went crazy. And you'll notice just the sheer amount of trades that there were today, there were like 8 setups. That's not normal. I mean, normally we'll have like maybe 3 as far as patterns go. So not your normal day. A lot of volatility. I did not have a setup in there because it just went too fast. Didn't have a chance to really do anything, and it left the station. And if you look at the timestamps, it went from 10:39 and 21 seconds to 10:39 and 31 seconds, and at 39 seconds as well, it was all the way back down at the low. So within like a 5-second span, it went up and all the way back down again. I just couldn't respond to it. Per the rules, it was a loss. Again, -1R, but I know, based on how we manage things, that would have been pretty nice. But SOCKS, right? It happens. As the market continues down, we had an attempted rotation back to the upside. It is a long after a really strong move down. Looks incredibly awkward. And you'll notice I did not have a setup there. I skipped that one. Unfortunate for me because it ended up being a 2R win. C'est la vie, right? That's how that worked out. Really nice continuation up. I mean, in hindsight, this was one that we were talking about at the time where you have to buy and your target is above resistance. 9 times out of 10, well, 6.5 times out of 10, that's going to bite you straight in the feet, right in the fingers, right in the face. It's just not going to work. So I skipped that one. I stayed out of it. It would have worked, of course, and then it rolled all the way down to the lows. After that dispatch move back to the downside, we had the sellers, which swept in very aggressively for a 2R move lower. And if you'll notice inside of there, a lot of that happened really fast. Again, very quick move, but luckily, this one actually allowed the entry. Not to say that there weren't like 1,000,003 other opportunities to short off of that, but the timestamp at the bottom tells it all. That was going into lunchtime. So, hard to stay interested in that kind of cycling. Now, where we are, we're continuing this momentum and trying to get this to shift back up. And like we were talking about this morning with YouTube members in the morning brief, if you aren't sure what I'm talking about, the join button below the stream, that's how you join in with the YouTube members in the morning session. We do a live session from like 9 to around 9:20, 9:30 to get our morning prep and our plan and everything set aside for the day. And this is one that we were talking about on how when we look at the bigger picture, the huge zone of interest here on this dive lower on the 60-minute chart doesn't do it justice. You can't really see where it's trying to go because this is such a huge cycle. But when we zoom into the 15-minute chart, that POC that was down here at 30.50 says it all. If the shorts were looking for continuation, they got dumpstered. Absolutely ripped in half. No chance for them to get out at break even. Pure pressure, nothing but. Right? So with that amount of pressure, them screaming to the highs like this, all this resistance up, diving down, if they're going to hold, the L2 should hold it. It paused it, I guess, for a second. And then it rolled all the way down. Where did it go to? Right to where their break even was. Right? Now, if we look at this area, right, they didn't technically hit it. They missed it by a few ticks. You will notice that the majority of the volume started building here, which is where we bounced off of. There's a lot of volume nodes all the way down. So although the POC is there, there's some very distinct volume chunks on the way lower that the market is already kind of piercing into. It's no wonder we're getting a little bit of a bounce here because that's what all those shorts who've been stuck for ages have been, well, finally given a chance to get out. We'll see what they're able to do with it. Now, as far as the Nasdaq continuation to the upside, we've got a nice first kick off of an L3, which pulled back into another L3, which pulled back into an L2, and now we have some movement to the upside with Ooh, they didn't hit the L1. There they did. One thing stands out. We've got some pretty obvious candle gapping back here. No overlap, so if the market's going to want to pull back, that would be a likely spot. As far as the S&P is concerned, realistically, from a scalper's perspective on the S&P at least, we've got candle gapping between here and there, which would suggest that they've got upside targets a little bit further away in the 950s. And if we look backward, the 950s are a big spot, huge wick pocket up there. And if we go a little bit further up, actually, right there is even more 609s. So this whole area up here, this is a big spot. Really, really big zone of resistance. They've already tested it one time and backed off pretty quickly. Now it's just a matter of seeing if they can follow through with a bit more or how they want to do this. Got a little micro double bottom. There's 4 minutes left, so a small little poke underneath that base could allow buyers in. The S&P is in an incredibly challenging spot, though. Obviously, the trend is down. Jeez, look at all the resistance inside here. Insane. Massive twin reversal on the Nasdaq with a bunch of wicks following it up, suggesting that the longs are getting nervous. That could cause some problems. We do still have a lot of support that's being built up around the 786s or so on the Nasdaq. S&P's also cycling off the previous swing high and resistance to the tick. Really tough spot. On the Nasdaq, a flush point down to fill this gap would be a zone of interest. And if we're looking at the volume profile from bottom to top on an impulse, I'm sure we've got the POC either at the bottom or, oh, at the top. So we've got the, really? We've got the POC all the way up at the highs. Lovely. Strong bull bar, and all of this back and forth is likely trying to get sellers enticed to jump in. None of them are working so far, though. See how many things we can stack up together here. Jeez, what an angle on that wedge. Beautiful bear bar, huge bull trap. Buyers buying above that bull bar got slammed. Let's see if this is nothing more than a Goldman stop run. We've got that big old gap underneath that's just waiting. Now, looking from the perspective of shorts, if the sellers are going to be looking for their targets, their 3-to-1 is just a little further down. That is a horrible fill. I got to jump out of that one. I got a just terrible fill on that. There we go. That's a little better. Starting to dig down in that zone, looking for a pulse back to the upside. We're in the area. Couldn't get a fill on that next one. Beautiful continuation pulse to the upside. Didn't get a fill on the target, though. That's fine. See if they can pulse back above the highs here. Wow, that was an absolutely terrible fill. Holy crap. Wow. All right, I hit ask when it jumped up to the high, and I got filled at 70. Ooh, oh, man. All right. Bulls attempting to get that rotation back to the upside on that last horrendous fill that the market just gave me. We've got a bit of volatility going on here. We're not getting the bounce that I want. I'm going to jump ship. I don't like this. It's not. If this was going to be a break-even gap bounce, they should have rocketed this thing all the way up to the highs, not slip fill me 4 points and then fail to go through the wedge, right? There's too many problems. If it does go, it's going to go without me. It's not getting the bounce that I was looking for, at least. As far as the S&P is concerned, they did gap fill a little bit, but not enough to get things done. How about this whole thing? BOC's still up there. Well, we'll see if they can make it, but there's a little a couple too many issues here. Yeah, all right. They finally get the pop, but after herky-jerking around for seven minutes too long. Nice little inside pullback for bulls to reload on this dip, but again, I've kind of lost faith on the move. I think a lot of traders are using that rip higher to jump ship. S&P still primarily sideways and having a hard time doing anything. See how they respond this time around. Now the bulls are digging into that major zone, and we already know that the bump was relatively lackluster. So now it's just kind of waiting for proof. We need that extra little push. Now, if you're trying to figure out what it is that we're doing, and the market's incredibly confusing, or maybe you're just brand new to the markets and you're not sure how to approach them yet, don't forget to check out the Day Trading Academy over at SSFTG. It's 19 plus hours of video course material that goes over trade plans from start to finish, everything you need to know. Really useful resource if you're looking for a trade plan or trying to figure out what the heck's happening. Buyers trying to get a bounce out of this L2, but we've already seen too much disappointment for them to really follow through. That last pulse, I think, was just icing on the cake. We'll see how they keep this going, though. Looking at the wider perspective, Bitcoin's still hovering around the 46,700s, not really doing much. Crude had a nice slide down into the low 69.50s before bouncing back up above 70. And we've got gold, which it's not doing anything. It had that big blow off down to the lows and 60s at the 1766s. Since then, it hasn't gone anywhere. See if they can get this thing to finish off. These bulls aren't proving a thing right now. Big wick up on the top. Nastiness. Really strong bear bar down, too. I mean, you can see what's happening, right? The bulls tried buying into this move. It didn't work. They exited. As soon as it broke down, they exited the rest. I mean, nobody's hanging out. See if they can stick the landing here and keep this pressure going down, or... I mean, the S&P is not doing a thing right now. Got a little bit of a gap closure by 2 ticks. Right back up into this zone. This is where the earlier longs were trying to get something going and failed miserably. Okay. Whoa, am I seeing that right? From Iron Beam Futures, nano-sized Fair X Futures. Day trade margins as low as 10. Weren't we just talking about that? Having nano futures. Pick up like 100 of them at a time. Just got that email. That's crazy. We were just talking about that today. Well, there you go. We've got a retest on resistance, and sellers are pressuring back down out of the L2. They haven't hit the L3, but they're continuing pretty aggressively. All these wicks on the support side of the S&P are not really showing anything. See if they can follow through or not. Definitely not sticking any landings. The top of the L1 is assumably where a lot of longs will have tried to get in for a continuation phase up. And if they get dumped on, that's going to be, well, where they get out at break even next. So let's see if they can get a continuation move back up to 87.25. Big volume note, aside from the POC, is on top of L1. So everything stacks up. I didn't get any fills. None. I hit ask twice, didn't get a single fill. There we go. POC shifting down. As far as the continuation phase to the downside goes, I mean, we're looking at roughly first objectives down in like the 81s, and then we're going to see if they can go a little bit further down below that. Beautiful POC congestion zone, pressuring back off of the previous swing high, also taking out a lot of the stops. Sellers just need that one good pop. Awesome, Vipe. Have a good one. Enjoy. See if the micro Nasdaq wants to play ball to the downside as far as the scalps and the swings. The S&P is repressuring back up into that zone of resistance, although, you know, honestly, I would rather see it go maybe a little bit further up for some better pricing. Nice pulse up on the Nasdaq. Doesn't do a ton for the average, but it moves in a little bit. S&P, see if I can grab one up on the top there at 850. There we go. 750 would be the zone, although I would like to see if I can get more than just a single. Or not. That's cool too. All right, Nasdaq or S&P immediately scalps out of it. Your how to build an upland business is doing great. Yeah, it's going really well. I think a lot of people are interested in the NFT sector as a whole, which obviously, right? It's something to be considered. I think it has to be. Like today, right? We had the Bronx launch at 11 o'clock during the room this morning, and a couple of us were able to grab a few properties for 4,000 UPIX, which is like the equivalent of $3 or $4. And then you sell it within seconds for 20 to 30,000 UPIX instead. So it's like a 10x return in seconds. It's crazy. NFTs are going nuts, man. Not getting the pulse down that I was looking for yet, so I'm going to reduce just a little. Just a little, not much. There we go. Nice little pulse down. There's the objective. Finally. Got a little bit messy. Had to eat some of the losses along the way, but again, the way that it was moving, it just doesn't look like it's ready to quite fall apart yet. And I'll take the target while it's sitting on the target. Nothing for the S&P other than that quick little pulse, and if that was it, I mean, it was fast. You had no time to respond to that. Hopefully there was enough with the giant box, but... All right, we are going on 1:30. Feel free to get those questions in. We'll get those covered for you. As far as the trader's math for today goes, between all of the trades and everything so far, at least up till now, with the... Let's see. Just today, dollars and cents aside, I don't care about the dollars and cents. I just want to make sure that we're trading appropriately. 39 total trades today. Quite a few little scalps and build-ins and all that fun stuff within these, but... kept the risk in check the whole time. That's really cool to see the building in on the micro scale and still. Anyway, 76.92. The losers were 23.08% of the time. Average losing trade was 28. Average winning trade is 22. Minus the losing math gives us a positive 1,042 on the day, which, as far as a trader's math is concerned, is pretty solid. I can't complain. Normal days between 6 and 800, so over 1,000 I'm a happy camper with. As far as the largest winners versus largest losers, we can see that those are still in 2-to-1 territory, so we did have some runs within that move, but certainly not not big runs by any means. Just a good little back and forth. Nasdaq longs may be trying to creep back up into this dip, but honestly, I think the resistance is still here, and I really don't want to put too much on the table if they're going to press back against this. I mean, look at the overall trend. You got to be careful going long in a move like this. See what they want to do. Tesla announced that they were going to be accepting Doge, and that went from, what, 15 cents to 20-something cents in about a second. Although now it's drifting its way back down again at 18 cents, so it's kind of backed off a little bit. Market just kind of jerking around a little bit, back down into that support area, but understandably, I'm a little bit weary in that area. Tough spot. S&P sellers reject out of the zone nicely off the top, and that's kind of where we're at the moment. Now, like I said, if you're looking to join me during the New York Stock Exchange Open instead of in the afternoon, we run the VIP live trade room from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. every day. That's 12 lunchtime, just to clarify, and that is in Eastern. VIPs have permanent access to the live trade room included with the membership, so you don't have to worry about any of those extra fees, and it's all of the VIP packages, all three. The regular VIP, the VIP Plus, and Elite all come with it, part of the package. And depending on the VIP one that you sign up and join up with, you can get anywhere between 3 and 10 one-hour one-on-one calls with me over Zoom. That way we can set up your computer, all the charts, the key bindings, and trade plans, and everything else along with it. Really cool. Keep in mind, I am human, so I am limited by time. If it's something that you're interested in, make sure to get on the calendar sooner than later. Availability is based on, what's up. Holidays are a little weird. That's a heck of a bear bar on the S&P. They might have a shot to try to push this down. Now, notice, right, the sellers would have to sell directly into this brick wall of wick down here. That's not easy. They're going to have a lot of work if they're going to push through that. It's not to say that they can't, but it might make more sense to allow the sellers to trigger in and then try to get a better price. And speaking of holidays, while I think of it, if you're looking for a more budget-friendly approach, because, you know, holidays are incredibly expensive, we do have payment plans as well on all the VIP packages for as little as $84 a month for 12 months. So don't forget to check that out as well if that's something that you're looking for. Do another like 10 minutes or so, and then we'll get any questions or trade reviews or anything else that you guys need, and then we'll call it a day. All right, bears might try to get this to trigger in. All right, there's the trigger. Now, the short entry was at 04. I would much rather try to sell back in 05s or even 06s to try to back that off to make it a little bit easier for the scalpers. No trades today. It happens, you know. But, you know, here's the thing, right? Would you rather have no trades today or losing trades today, you know? It's just because there weren't any trades today doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I know it's really frustrating. It's really irritating to just sit there because it feels like you've done nothing. I totally get it. But, I mean, really, you have done something. You've protected your capital by following your plan. It just means that you didn't have any trades because of it. So don't feel too defeated by it. It just means that you did what you were supposed to. Doesn't make it feel any better, but, you know. Shorts on the S&P trying to pressure back down off of this high zone, looking to get better pricing. The Nasdaq's got a higher low, and they're trying to kind of creep their way up into this, but they're not getting the job done. Ooh, there we go. Now we're finally getting a little bit of a bump on the S&P. Back up to the highs. I couldn't quite get it there. All right, so sellers offered up a significantly better price. And scalped out of the first portion, seeing if they can get the last one. There's only one left. All right, good enough. Doesn't want to do it. We'll let them push back down off of that move. All right. I'm not seeing any other reasons to put anything else on the table, so let's call it there. Overall, you know, it's a pretty good solid day, all things considered. From a pattern perspective, if we look at the overall patterns, 2, 4, minus 2, so we're at 2, plus 4, minus 2, we're at 2, plus 2, minus 1, that means we're at 3. So it's a 3R day as far as the trade patterns go, and there were a ton of patterns along the way. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 patterns for today. Normally we've got like maybe 2 or 3. So it's a pretty active day, all things considered. But, you know, worked out pretty well. Got a nice solid day. If there were any questions that I may have missed along the way, you can always shoot those to me via email, jhb@ssftg.com. Of course, if you want any more info about everything that we have to offer, you can shoot me a message. I can get you taken care of from there. Or head over to the main page of SSFTG. We got them all overviewed and covered there too. So either way, we've got plenty of stuff for you, one way or another. And yeah, we'll call it there. I'm not interested in putting more risk on the table. So that'll do it. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Tomorrow we'll be back like normal at 1300 Eastern in the afternoon. And of course, for you VIPs and YouTube members, we'll be back tomorrow morning to create the game plan and trade the New York Stock Exchange Open. So enjoy the rest of the day. Rest up. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.